Gummies, 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 I got gummies. Do you want some gummies? It's the Cool Nerd Weed Show.
Yes, it is the Cool Nerd Weed Show. That's yes.
And that's Sasha.
And we are live on Adobe Radio. We love you, Adobe. You could find like video of us doing this on YouTube. Cool Nerd Weed Show. Just search Cool Nerd Weed Show. We're on Instagram if you want to DM us, and like all the other weed platforms. Also, like weed social media platforms. They exist, and we're on them.
We are on them while they still exist. Yes.
So okay. So here's some like context for why we're talking about this. So we out here in LA, Los Angeles, weed culture was like different, as you know, like before it was legal and stuff. And we had like local kind of like sesh heroes almost, like people who, kind of were just around a lot. And that were in the scene and in the culture and like kind of did whatever they could to kind of like, fit into the culture. So that said, this one dude, he ran Hitman Glass out here in LA, which if you're out here in California, Hitman. You've heard of this.
Yeah, Hitman Doug. He put on the Chalice Festival. He had the Hitman Lounge on La Brea for a while.
His glass was like, just kind of like top shelf, fancy pantsy, expensive stuff.
It was really all about the glass.
Yeah. There was some fun stuff. He would have like,
it was like
intricate things.
I feel like it was at a time in LA when like the dab culture was really like amped up and really getting going,
and like rigs and stuff, like people were really flexy on their rigs. Like if it was very
the motherships.
It was a whole thing.
Hitman Glass was right up there with it.
And Hitman Glass really was. You'd go to the lounge and you'd see the cool glass, and like he was just kind of around, and you were homies with him. You were, but I guess he like went over to the East Coast or something.
I believe
because Hitman, the lounge closed out here.
Yeah, the lounge closed.
Because obviously, when everything went legal, like you have to like reevaluate what you're doing.
This was pre Prop 64 adult use in California. So you could do these things.
Right, you could just have like a place,
It was like in the middle in the middle of like the Wilshire district somehow, and have live events. Yeah, which was cool. We went to some events there.
We did. Yeah, it was cool. It was rad. People liked it.
But I guess Hitman Dougie's on the East Coast now.
So he went to the East Coast. The East Coast is definitely booming right now. It is for sure an exciting time to, be in weed, to like, in whichever capacity. I'm not quite sure what the cowboy market looks like out on the East Coast. Honestly, I don't know if it's fun. I don't know if the weed is good. I don't know much about it because I'm really very far away from it. I don't even know. I mean, obviously we don't even know what the legal market is, the vibe is.
Yeah, it seems pretty limited right now.
Right, it is limited. There's not a lot. Yeah, it's been so difficult with New York to get things through. But it is certainly like an exciting time. Once things get going in New York, it's like bound to be, really, really, really big. Lots of monies.
Hell yeah.
So that said, I understand why, you would go to New York and check it out and stuff. I just think he's trying to get clicks, but it did inspire us to like go on a stoned rant or two, like a crispy, rant. He's been on this like tip on Instagram saying that East Coast weed is like better than California weed, and that California just has mids. Like that's all that's on the shelves is mids. And he's like doubling down on this. on his Instagram. He has a lot of followers, and people that we know are commenting like on his pictures, on his memes, being like, "Bro, what are you talking about? Stop."
Yeah, I mean, and also at the same time, he is promoting the Best of New York.
Yeah. Festival. So he's got his own like thing,
which
going.
is cool, you know.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
get it going.
Sure, but I'm sure he's trying to get some like attention because festivals are just kind of starting out there, obviously, because it's, you know, so brand new. But it had us chatting, and we were looking at all the comments, and you know, of course, like everybody's on it, like, but there's like a lot of people that are like, okay, you know, I'm born and raised New Yorker. I've been out in New York weed, and like then I came out to California, and it's just not true. Like it. And that's not to ever take away the good New York weed, because that exists. I know that it does. I'm aware, you know, but you can't forget, to me, even like the lowest, middiest California weed, and we've had some crappy weed out here, is still going to be better to me than New York weed. Now, that's not to say... Before I rest my case, that's not to say California traps. I have a theory. Well, I mean, it's not a theory. I have this thing where I know that before, when you went to a cowboy shop when it was Prop D, but they just like weren't anything. They were just selling weed, you know, in a storefront. The weed was probably good. Or if you went to like a sesh, the weed was probably even better than the weed you were going to get at a dispensary sometimes. The weed would be good. Nowadays, wherever you go, cowboy weed, illegal weed, traditional market weed is, I don't know where that, I feel like it's the rejects from the grows, or, you know, somebody's basement grow, or somebody's illegal grow, where it's just the caliber and quality of cowboy weed is not as good now than it was before.
Yeah, I mean, how can you really trust it?
Right. So if that's what he's basing his opinion off of, you know, the street weed, or even the dispensary weed, the legal weed. And if it's that, I would argue that even like your cheapest, lowest weed here is better than, I don't know, it's different, does something different than East Coast weed. And I'm rooting for the East Coast. I love the East Coast. I am East Coast till I die. Okay,
I love the East Coast. I love the East Coast, and I'm hoping that the East Coast will. I know that the East Coast and New York will come through and grow that hyphy eventually.
And they do have small batch farms. This is true. He says this on his Instagram as well.
Well, yeah, everything's going to be smaller batches, and in the beginning, and much better.
Yeah,
the small batches are always better, and that goes back to, you know, if California is producing more boof than it is fire, well, sure, because they're producing like 100 large scale boof factories are here in California, but there's also the fire still exists.
It does. We have it. Proof.
We have it in hand,
and that's important to note. That, like, I would just, Your Honor, like to hold on before you cross your fingers. I just need to point out that, yes, because big cannabis has come to California, and that's how most states are starting out, with big companies. Not really New York. It does seem that there's like smaller groups, but like you said, that's just for now. Like because California has so many factories and shit for, you know, larger scale grows. Yes, nowadays there is more mids than there is fire, but the fire is fucking fire.
Yes,
and there's a lot of fire. No, as well.
There's no question that California still has the fire.
Okay, so you may.
There's no question that California still has the fire.
You can say all the things.
But listen. Okay, so what has New York and the East Coast been smoking this entire time? Because I know it wasn't produced locally.
You mean like traditional market weed?
Traditional market. Like the only markets have only lasted in the last few years. It's really their baby markets in the legal market. So with that being said, you were probably getting packs from California
from here
in the earlier days, and you're probably still getting them from like Oklahoma.
Please, Girl Scout cookies. I mean, like when and Gorilla Glue. Like there was a Gorilla Glue monsoon in New York, and that came from here. You know,
I believe, for sure.
Like you can trace when it started really coming from here to New York. But I think just as a consumer, as somebody who's been buying weed in New York for the better part of my life, I noticed a key difference. And it's true. There was nobody growing weed in, you know, there was some people, I guess, that I got weed from had like little tiny things going on, but it was like very difficult to grow weed in the cities. So
and not really super safe.
No, it was really illegal. You would get in really big trouble.
Highly illegal.
So you'd always, I feel like a lot of it came from here anyway. So, I mean, I guess apparently like there's master growers out on the East Coast, and there are, because,
for sure. Yeah.
You know, if you're working against all odds, like, and you're trying to grow weed, like you're going to get good at it, you know? So I believe that, I believe that there are master growers more on the East Coast, but I still, and like, don't even get me started on like Massachusetts fucking weed, please. No, I'm not trying to be a dick. Show me good Massachusetts weed. I will not, and I'll eat my fucking hat. I would like to smoke good weed, but every time I go out there, I'm like just steadily disappointed.
Yes, if somebody could point us in the right direction to where that fire is in Mass. Now, in New Jersey, the highest level of legal weed that I've had was from Cookies. That was the highest quality. I wouldn't call it fucking fire. It was fine. But it was better to me than... To me, like, I mean, I know he's not talking about New Jersey because East Coast, like New Jersey just... I mean, I definitely have never really gotten great weed traditionally or legally in New Jersey. So he must be talking about New York headies or whatever. And I'm sure like he went to the East Coast, Hitman Dougie, and like hung out with all these like old heads and like, back in my day type shit. And it probably felt cool and New York's litty. But I just... again, have really difficult time. Like, okay, like the sour diesel or whatever. East Coast cookies. I remember everybody was like, oh, it's East Coast cookies. No, it's East Coast cookies. Like, okay, what'd you put? Like, okay, what made it East Coast cookies? Tell me. Like the top strains of New York? Yeah. Last year, they were Gorilla Glue, Runts, Ice Cream Cake, Wedding Cake, Lemon Cherry Gelato, Oreos Gelato, Gary Payton Jealousy, and Apple Fritters. Those are all LA strains. Those are all fucking California strains. Now, if you're going to tell me that they know how to grow and pop seeds, then like, sure, no. Yes. But to sit out here and in good conscience say, conscience? Conscious. Conscience? Conscience? They both sound right to me right now. The more you say it, the weirder it sounds. I can't. TS, I just can't say it. I cannot. Now, do you think weed traditionally before legally, in the 90s, do you think being somebody who has smoked, because I didn't smoke weed really up until late in Prop D out in California, unless it was whatever I was getting in New York. I smoked traditional market New York weed my whole life. So do you feel that back then still California weed was better? Like back in the 90s? Oh, like, still, yeah. So there was never a time in history where California weed wasn't better than East Coast weed. Because either it was like coming from California or somebody... Sometimes I would be able to get like some like 90s chronic hydro that somebody was growing that was super sticky. Yeah. It'd be like 2 G's for 50 from a delivery service. And that was cool. I was super happy to get it because I was only taking bat hits. Well, that's another thing too. So I have to always note that when I came, when I obviously smoking weed on the East Coast was a different experience because it was like not legal. So I just had dugouts that I still have my dugout somewhere. It's like, you get your little one hitter. It came in a little, it popped out with a little like
you could get
wooden
those.
like a wooden dugout
guitar shaped one.
Okay,
you haven't seen that one?
Oh yeah,
I've kept various drugs in there, and like you slide it open, and then there's a little like pot for your substance, and then there's a little. You can only get this size dugout or
there was like the
one
mini
hitter though. Yeah, the minis.
The mini. And
I used to get them in
Chinatown.
Chinatown. I used to get them like $20 for $1. Or
yeah,
some
I would stock up, so I'd have clean ones when I was traveling,
and they'd break. Like they were. But boy, were they fucking great, bro! Those I love the one. And New York weed must have been fire because you'd be just taking fucking 4 hits out of a one hitter, and I would be zooted. So. I wasn't smoking joints in New York ever.
No,
ever. You wouldn't catch me smoking. Maybe blunts, but like not myself. I don't know how to roll a blunt. So I was always smoking out of glass in New York. So the New York weed must have been good enough for me to get really zooted. Now nowadays I don't know, but still coming to California and smoking California weed for the first fucking time. I was literally Homer Simpson. In Weekend at Burnsies. Like I was rainbows coming out of my ears my first trip to California smoking this weed. It is like nothing else you'll ever smoke.
It's true.
I'm sorry. I'm really, really passionate about this.
I forgot how to drive. Thank you, Maurice. Showed me what the chronic was.
You get stuck when you get really
I do. And
everybody does. That's why you'll never catch anybody too stoned and driving.
I didn't.
You can.
I went to leave and then I came back and I had to knock on his window. I was like, dude. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. I can't. Can I come back in? I can't drive. He's like, yeah, dude, come back in. You want some water? Chill out. I'm not doing anything. You need to leave in the first place.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, he had like the green, and then he broke out like, "This is the chronic," and it was like some really tight.
You get that first smell, like the first smell of West Coast weed. I just had come out here to visit Chris when we first started dating, like a million years ago. Like I don't know, 2011, I think. Jesus Christ. And or 12, 11 or 12. So whatever the weed was then, whatever the trendy weed was in 2011 or 12. That's when, no, it must have been 2011. That's when I first ever came to California. And
that was like,
it was like,
that was like the height of OGs and Bubbas.
Yeah.
You were like, everything was
so
like OG and Bubba.
Yeah. The weed was like some Bubba something, and it was like, oh my God.
There was like, there was the bubble gums, there was green crack, there was like,
there was
some
a lot of green crack
there was a lot
around.
of jacks, but a lot of OGs, like mad OGs.
It was really, really nice. And, I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. I just don't ever think. I think as good as New York weed will get, New York weed is going to get, and it's already great. I really have enjoyed my New York weed experiences, honestly, truly, madly, deeply. I'm if you work in New York weed or people who do traditionally or legally, let us know. Even if it's in one of the 8 billion smoke shops that are on the avenues, we won't blow up your spot. We know what it's like to be cowboys.
Yeah, tell us what's happening.
We want to know.
What are the flavors like? What's the
vibe?
What's happening? Because
how are you growing? Tell us your secrets.
When we all of your deepest, darkest, DM us your deepest and darkest secrets.
Again, do not get me wrong. We saw some people. Sorry, cross your fingers. We saw some people comment, people that we know, saying like, "Oh, it's because New York has like love and like." Passion. And like, let me please just explain to you the passion and love that SoCal has for weed and the Humboldt. Like, there's places that, in every state that aren't weed friendly, but like the California weed industry and market is just, I don't know. I've never been to Washington, Colorado. I always say that because people always are like, well, Denver, but like, I can't speak to them. I have smoked weed from Denver and it's good, but it's still not good.
That was like whatever we smoked from Denver was like very
clean,
and but mids for sure.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
There was like some actually like legit farmers commenting on like the price of cannabis, and they're like, we're like top end outdoor growers that we know, and they were commenting that $200 for an ounce is like outdoor farmers are giving away their crops for like $500 a pound in Humboldt.
Oh yeah.
And then like some other jackass comments, stop doing that. Well, how?
Why are they doing that? To get rid of it?
It's got to go.
Yeah.
I mean, if the market's like bottomed out and there's like no other buyers, or people are just lowballing the fuck out of them, which is like,
I mean, you can get weed on the cheaps.
For sure.
Good weed on the cheaps.
Also, okay, when we went to, while we were in New York, we did support the legal market, but then we had to, desperate times call for desperate measures, and we had to pop into a spot, which... I
forgot we did that.
In the Empire State Building. But,
that was great.
And it was cool, but when I was looking at the flower, like, everything smelled like legit.
Yeah.
And...
Yeah.
We got some pre-rolls that questionable whether they came from or whatever, but they were pre-rolls. We just needed
something to get us through.
A quick fix. But the flower did look and
smelled really good,
legit in the hyphy bags.
But
I don't know. Like, smoking is a real test.
Smoking is a real test, and you also, if it's in those shops, I don't know where it's coming from.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you're going to tell me that East Coast weed is better than West Coast weed, what are you talking about? Like, are you just talking about like what it was and like what it could be, or like what it is now? Either way, I have to disagree. I just have to. And I guess like you'll find a lot of people doing that, but I just feel like not taking away anything that the East Coast has to offer. Please. Like, I'm sure they're really hard at work getting, maybe those cowboy shops, those chop shops do have are coming from somebody locally. I couldn't see how, but maybe they are. And it's grown locally and it's good weed. And that is great.
Well, get all of those people legal. Get them all on board.
Get them legal. But for right now, I don't know. I just can't sit here and...
We're just not going to take it. We're just not going to sit here and take it.
Well, I am always rooting for the East Coast. I think East Coast weed people and heads are truly warriors, like in like
for
a way
real.
that like
you've suffered long enough.
And California, some may say, even though now there's I shouldn't say this, but I think that I will. Even though there was like, you lived through like the raids and getting through all of that stuff, you still had the option to fight for safe access.
Yes.
So some may say it's even more like gritty to be in New York growing weed, because really truly all odds are against you. So to produce fire, like, that's like, I feel like the weed that I got, maybe, no, I can't even say that. I was gonna say the Pizza Pusha might be like, not the one that we went to, but when I just got like an eighth from them, on the side.
The delivery pizza.
Yeah, when I got the delivery that I had to go get myself in Brooklyn, it was really good. But the weed did remind me of New York weed. It did. But again, I can't tell. It was like sour diesel, and the other one was Chem Dog, I think. But I couldn't tell if it was
like a
from
glue
here or not. Yeah, like I don't know. It's just if you hear anybody say that East Coast weed is better than West Coast weed, they're probably trying to get clicks.
I want examples. Sent to us.
Yeah, sent to us.
Via carrier pigeon. Anyway, we really need...
I'm a self-made millionaire.
Oh Oh, it's a remix of Hit 'Em Up. I'm sorry, I just wanted to hear what this sounded like. What were you gonna say?
No, I was treading into dangerous territory.
What was it? Tell me.
Of sending us samples.
Oh yeah, no, don't do that.
Yeah, don't send us anything. But we would love to try all of New York's finest at some point.
We would, and we were rooting for you, East Coast. This is a nice little remix of Hit 'Em Up.
Hit 'Em Up.
Not the aggressive thing that I was looking for, but just know that West Coast weed will likely win. I'm sorry. Don't be mad at me, East Coast. You know you're my one and only. But I don't see that changing anytime
Yeah,
soon.
the West Coast, you got the greens. You got the greens. The
I just don't see it changing.
The kings and queens of cannabis are on the West Coast. Talk to me in 10 years, New York.
And even then, I don't know. I just feel like California weed is something very, very different. It's just different. I'm sorry. I'm not talking culture. I'm not talking fucking cred. I'm talking just quality per whatever. I don't know what measurement I'm using. I just feel like even your lower tier of weed, what you would consider mids out here, is better than some of the stuff I've gotten on the East Coast recently. Sorry.
It's true.
I'm sorry.
It's true.
Sorry. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more shit on New Jersey. We'll be right back.